we're going to be going over IRS Form 14157-A. This is the tax form used by a taxpayer to report their tax return preparer for fraud or misconduct. This is a signed affidavit, and we'll go into some details. The first thing that you should know is that this might not be the correct form for you to file with the IRS depending on your circumstances. So you should only use this tax form if two things happened. One, your tax return preparer filed a Form 1040 income tax return or altered your income tax return without your knowledge and consent. And two, if you are seeking a change with the IRS to your account. And if that's the case, you're going to file this form along with Form 14157, which is the standard complaint form for your tax return preparer. You'll complete both forms in their entirety, and you'll submit as well a signed copy of your income tax return as you intended it to be filed, if you're required to file one, and then a copy of your tax return that you received from your tax preparer. So let's go over this step by step. As with most tax forms, your information will go at the top, your first and last name, your spouse's, if applicable, last name, first name, middle initial, and then your social security number, the last four digits, your mailing address, and the name of your tax return preparer. And then you're going to check the appropriate box depending on your circumstances. And there are quite a few. Filing a return without using your name and social security without your consent, altering your tax return without your knowledge or consent, providing a copy of your tax return that is different from what was filed with the Internal Revenue Service, the preparer receiving your refund. A side note, your tax return preparer should never, ever receive any amount of your tax refund. If you're paying your tax return preparer, they should charge you a straight fee that you know upfront, and you pay them separately without your refund being attached to that payment. A tax return preparer had your refund or a portion deposited into an account that was not mine. Again, that's illegal. Promising a refund that you never received and that the IRS did not contact you about. Promising a refund that you did receive for a different amount that the IRS did not contact you about. And finally, promising a refund, issuing you a check that bounced. Again, your tax refund should come from the IRS, not from your tax return preparer. So below this, you're going to list the tax year or tax years that were impacted for each box checked above. And if you use the tax return preparer for any other tax years or filings or returns, then list those tax years as well. Do you have a personal relationship with a tax preparer? A lot of times tax fraud happens with friends, neighbors, relatives, co-workers, things of that nature. How did you find out about this person? This is really the Internal Revenue Service trying to collect information on whether or not this is a growing trend of scams, just trying to get more information about this particular operator to see if this was a one-off or if they're actually running a system of scams and that affects other taxpayers. Did you receive a refund? Put your refund amount if yes. Did you contact your tax return preparer or your financial institution to ask about your refund? And then the tax preparer or financial institution's response. Did you pay a fee to your preparer? If so, enter the fee amount and then how did you pay the fee? And again, it should be a personal payment, cash check or credit card. It should not be deducted from your tax refund. That is a big no-no, and every tax preparer knows this. Do you authorize the IRS to disclose your identity and each bank or account routing or account number list on your tax return to determine if the refund was directed to your account? You can select no, but that really limits the Internal Revenue Service's ability to conduct additional due diligence with the bank that you might have had your refund directed to. On page 2 of this form, you're simply going to briefly describe what happened and the tax issue that resulted from this incident. And if you need additional space, you've got this entire form. It's a blank form. At the bottom, there will be signature space for you and your spouse. Include your phone number so that the Internal Revenue Service can follow up with a phone call. Fortunately, on the back of this form, there's some decent information, some more detailed instructions. If there's evidence that shows the tax preparer held themselves out as being in the business of preparing tax returns, then the IRS would appreciate if you can send a copy of some of this information. It could be a business card, it could be a flyer, but this all falls under the professional conduct guidelines. The Internal Revenue Service would like to look at this marketing material, if applicable, or any other material to see if how else they might be violating the tax code. And then any evidence that might have corroborated interaction with the tax preparer, such as copies of documents received from the tax preparer, your IRS Form 8879, which is the e-file signature authorization, checks, refunds, email trails, any of that information. The Internal Revenue Service might actually request additional information if you receive less of the refund than what you thought you were entitled to. You might need to file a police report that shows the tax year involved, the tax preparer's information, and then a statement similar to this one describing the misconduct. So if you are submitting this in response to a form or a letter received, then you should send this with a copy of that letter to the address that's contained in that letter. And if you did not, then you should send a copy of that form and the other supporting documents to the Internal Revenue Service Center where you would normally mail a 1040. And if you want to look for that proper mailing address, go to irs.gov, keyword search where to find addresses, and then there's a link to taxpayers and tax professionals where to file individual tax returns. All of this information is located in our article. Simply go to teachmepersonalfinance.com, go to the search bar, type in 14157A, and you should be able to pull up this article that you can go through. Thank you very much.